This happened last year while I was broke and struggling to make ends meet. I had just moved out and didn't want to resort to going back to my parents. Anyways, I was incredibly desperate for a job and began searching Craigslist night and day. I don't even remember how many applications I sent to various people. After responding to several, I got a bite back from someone who had advertised themselves as a disabled man who needed help with his morning and evening routines. There wasn't much info on his illness, but what caught my attention was the pay. As a past caregiver, I thought, how hard could it be to help out a disabled man? So, I agreed to do it. He shared his address and I arrived there the next morning without failure. The man lived in an apartment. The neighborhood was quiet, and the building itself appeared to be lacking maintenance. Nothing shocking, to be honest. I knocked on the door and heard a voice from the other side.
"It's open! Please come in!"
Upon entering, I saw a man about the age of 50 to 55, sitting in a wheelchair. He had a bottle-shaped face and the bottom of his eyelids stretched downwards. The feeble, prickly hair on his head made him look like a homeless person. To top it off, he had these beaver teeth that made his overall appearance rather disturbing.
"Come closer, dear, so I can see your face. These old eyes don't work well."
Hi, I'm Amy. We talked on the phone last night?
"I know who you are. You're not just smart, but pretty as well. I like pretty girls. I hardly get to see any these days."
Now, as disturbing as it may sound, I had no choice. I was already there and I needed his money. I put my jacket on the hook and asked,
So, what do you want me to do first?
"How about we start with a bath? I haven't taken one in weeks."
"Oh damn, that's bad." But I knew what I was stepping into, so I grasped his wheelchair and started taking him to the bathroom.
Do you live alone?
"I do now. My wife died 3 months back. She was the nicest woman."
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
"Call me Daniel."
Okay, Daniel.
Once we were inside the bathroom, I saw a tub filled with dirty clogged water. The sink was so bad that I almost vomited.
"I'm sorry for the mess. My legs don't work anymore, which is why I'm unable to clean the apartment."
Well, you should hire help for that too.
"Yeah, I'm just learning to use Craigslist, so maybe next time." Isn't it amazing what you can do on the internet? I mean, you can meet anyone so easily.
Yeah. Please take off your t-shirt so I can start with the bath.
He grinned and took off his t-shirt. It was surprising to see so much chest hair on his body. I poured the body wash on his back and started scrubbing it with the loofah.
It tickles.
It was getting extremely irritating as he spilled water and soap everywhere, even on my clothes.
Okay, we're done here.
What? Really? But I was having so much fun. Your hands are so soft.
I washed my hands and threw a towel at him.
Your hands work, right? Dry yourself off, Daniel. That little movement will be good for your health.
He gave me an angry stare and then did what he was told. After the bath, I helped him get dressed. He also stared at me the entire time and kept smiling like a creep. I took him to the dining table and went to make him some food. I cooked enough pasta for him to live off for the entire week, and came back with 2 plates to eat.
Amy, before we eat, can you do something for me?
Look, Daniel, I've got to get home early, and it's already difficult enough for me in life, so please don't.
I'll pay you an extra $500 for this, so it'll be $800 a day.
After this, I couldn't say no. That much money will help me get by for weeks until I can find a decent job. So, hell yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Good girl. I just want to have a pleasant dinner with a pretty lady. You know, my wife's clothes are still in my bedroom. Why don't you wear something from that and join me?
Really? You want me to wear your dead wife's clothes for $500?
Please! please?
I suppose it was better that he wanted me to wear clothes instead of asking me to take them off. I went to the bedroom and, oh my, there were so many dresses. Most of them felt new. Weird, huh? I chose a red dress and came back to the table.
Wow! I bet you never looked this beautiful.
Thanks. Let's eat so I can leave soon.
We ate in silence. He just goggled at me with his eyes and it made me feel sick. But I needed the money, and as long as his hands were away from me, it was fine. I finished dinner and changed back into my clothes to leave. While giving me the money, his filthy hands brushed against mine. Pervert. I started walking to the door when he called out to me.
Amy, one last thing.
What now?
I looked back in frustration and he suddenly got up. He grabbed his Polaroid camera from the shelf nearby and said,
Do you mind if I take a picture of you, Amy?
I ran away. He didn't follow me. When I returned home, I broke down into tears. I wanted to burn the money he gave me, but then all that I had to put up with would have been in vain. I reported him to the cops the next day, so that what he did to me doesn't happen to any other girls. But when the cops looked him up at his address, they said no one lived there.
I don't think that'll ever work again. Let me tell you why. My name is Anna, and I'm experiencing one of the most traumatizing moments of my life. It started a day ago when I looked through the papers for a new job. I live in government housing and I was unemployed, so a listing quickly caught my eye. Set assistant, it said. All I had to do was call in and give my name and address, so I did.
Hello. I'm calling about the set assistant position. Is it still available?
Hello, yes it is. Can I have your name and address? It was a big mistake, but I gave the man on the other line my name and address, and he said I could start right away. He gave me the address of the warehouse, and I hopped on a bus to get there. When I arrived, the air was thick with the smell of mold and decay. The floor was littered with broken and discarded items. I had a feeling that this wasn't going to be the job I thought it was. The tall, imposing manager greeted me. As I looked upward, I couldn't help but feel off-put by his appearance. His skin was a mottled gray and yellowed color, and his eyes were shaped like those of a snake. His very thin lips were curved downward, as if he was always frowning. You're the set assistant, right? Your job is to move furniture and props around when they're needed. Don't open any boxes. That's the #1 rule.
Okay, that makes sense.
Still, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. But the manager was swift and brief with his introduction, and soon I was working. I hadn't even realized that he had followed me until he was right behind me, watching me move boxes and furniture around. As the hours dragged on, the manager left me to complete my work and disappeared entirely. As for the boxes that I had to move, they kept getting heavier and heavier, till I was straining with each step. I felt like I was being watched, and it made me uncomfortable. I couldn't help myself. I probably would have been safe if I hadn't, but you understand that I'm a curious person, and I needed to know what I was moving. And so, I opened one of the boxes. Some packing peanuts spilled out. I recoiled from the smell, which drafted upward out of the box, a rotten and sickly smell. And then I saw it, a hand, rotting and mangled, sticking out of the packing peanuts. Just then, I heard a voice behind me. It was the manager. He shouted at me, rage filling his voice. What did I tell you about touching the boxes? I told you not to touch the boxes! In his hand, he held a crowbar, and he waved it at me wildly. You're fired! Fired! He grabbed me roughly by the arm and dragged me, struggling, into a back room. He pushed me onto a chair and handcuffed my hands to the armrests on either side. He sighed.
What are you doing? Let me go!
No. I can't do that. You're a witness now. I would have let you transfer my product and paid you well to do it, but now that you know what I'm doing, I can't trust you. Now I need to call someone who will take care of you. He walked out of the room, his lanky body almost dancing away, leaving me alone to struggle with the handcuffs. I guess I was lucky that I was so poor because my thin wrists were able to slip out of the cuffs. Desperate, I ran out of the warehouse, my heart pounding in my chest. The manager had disappeared into a small room, and I figured he was on the phone with someone. If he caught me now, I would be done for. I ran and ran until I got to a police station. Breathless, I told the officers my story. They dispatched a few officers to the warehouse, and one of the officers said he'd drive me home, and I gratefully accepted. As we drove, however, I quickly realized something.
Where are you headed? This isn't the way to my house.
I'm just taking a quick detour. Don't worry about it. But in the mirror, I could see the evil glint in his eyes, and then I realized where he was driving, back to the warehouse where I had just escaped. I grabbed the handle of the door, threw it open, and jumped out of the car while it was still moving. I ran and ran until I reached home, my arms and legs burning with exhaustion. I hid in my bedroom, not knowing who to tell or what to do. Who should I tell? What do I do? As I sat there panicking, I suddenly heard my phone ring. I shouldn't have answered the unknown caller, but I did. I recognized the voice on the other side of the line immediately. You're not thinking straight, are you? I'm coming to your house now. Don't move a muscle. I quickly hung up the phone and scrambled away from the window, turning off all the lights and locking every door. With a sinking feeling in my heart, I realized that I had stupidly given the manager my address. At that moment, I felt more scared than I ever had in my life. All I could do was wait and hope he would go away if I stayed perfectly still and silent. I could hear the car pull up outside, and I prayed that he had changed his mind. But then, I heard the door handle turn, and my heart sank. I knew I was in trouble.
I used to work as a caregiver in an old age home. Taking care of old people can be hectic and sad at the same time. Seeing them on their deathbed asking about their families who hardly visit them made my heart ache. My supervisor often told me not to get too attached to the patients as it could hurt in the end, but I guess I've always been a sympathetic person. So, this one time, a new patient named Diane came to our facility. She was suffering from dementia and was already 75 years old. Now every patient, especially the most critical ones, get certain caregivers who are experts in the required field. And this is how I came across Miles. He used to be the senior manager, and he maintained quite an odd personality. First of all, he looked very different, not in a way pleasing to the eyes, and other employees kind of stayed away from him. I heard he was very rude and strict with newcomers. As I was the new one joining the team, I was already nervous, and when I got appointed to work under Miles, I almost crapped my pants. Before Diane's arrival, Miles called me into his office.
May I come in, sir?
Don't waste my time, silly! Just come in!
I went in. Miles checked me out from head to toe, and it gave me the creeps. His widespread eyes made it very weird to maintain eye contact with him.
So, you must be the new girl.
Yes, sir.
Well, at least you're pleasing on the eyes.
I got the undertone of his statement, but being the new one on the job, I kept quiet. It wasn't anything new to me as a woman, so I ignored it. Miles handed me Diane's medicine chart and briefed me on my duty every day. As far as I realized, he was going to sit in his office and relax, and I'd be the one pulling the work of two people. I was getting paid at the end of the day, so I didn't mind it. Diane was very sweet and probably the easiest patient to be with. She had no tantrums as she could barely remember what she wanted. I used to wake her up and then draw her a bath. I fed her and also read stories to her so she could go to sleep. She couldn't remember my name, but within a week, she started to recognize my face. One day while I was bathing her, I saw bruises on her wrist. It made me worried as I was sure there was no way she could have done that to herself. I thought to take this matter to Miles before going to the ultimate supervisor. When I entered his office, I saw him sitting close to Rita, another female caregiver, and smiling at her very creepily. Me seeing Rita's scared face changed into one of relief, and I realized what was happening here. Miles was probably creeping her out as he does with all the girls.
What do you want? Can't you knock?
I thought it would be a waste of your time. I can see you're pretty busy, but I needed to talk to you about Diane.
Miles' face turned red in anger. He didn't expect me to answer him like that. He looked at Rita and then looked at the door. Rita got the hint, and like a caged bird being freed, she drifted out of his office in a wink.
It better be important, or I'll...
Diane has bruises on her wrists. I think someone did that to her.
Oh, it's nothing. They get annoying occasionally, so we need to straighten them up sometimes.
Now my jaw dropped.
What do you mean?
Stick to your job! Do you understand that?
Yes. Fine.
I left his office with so many questions on my mind. I knew Miles had something to do with Diane's bruises. Is he the one who gave them to her? That night, I chose to stay back and watch what Miles does during the night shift. Around 9 o'clock, I saw Miles heading into Diane's room. I followed him quietly. The door was slightly open so I could peek in easily. Diane's feeble screams could be heard from the room.
No! Stop that! You're hurting me! Please!
It's a wave, that's all! Enjoy it!
Please stop! I'm scared!
Diane was lying on her bed and Miles was shaking it pretty violently. His eyes widened in cruel joy witnessing the old lady's traumatized behavior. So, this is what he does to the patients when no one's around? What a sick psycho. He then stopped shaking the bed and went to the bathroom. I couldn't see what he was doing in there, but a few seconds later he came back out with the cleaning cloth. He started flicking the cloth on Diane's face while laughing like a maniac.
Get it, Granny! This is what you deserve! Get it!
The cloth he was throwing at her face is used to clean the toilet. My stomach churned in disgust. What kind of person is this? And how come no one has reported him yet? Maybe no one has witnessed him doing this. I slowly took out my phone and started recording. I wanted to stop him and save Diane from what she was going through. But at the same time, I needed to gather evidence to get this guy fired forever. He danced and made vile faces at Diane as she kept on pleading with him to leave her alone. Suddenly, Diane grabbed the tissue box from her bed and threw it at Miles. Even in that stage of her life, the old lady hadn't forgotten how to fight back.
Oh, being feisty, huh? I'll teach you the real deal now.
Miles grabbed her wrists and started twisting them in the opposite direction.
Ouch! Don't do that! Stop it! Stop!
Why? I thought you liked it.
I've had enough! Please, it hurts!
Tears rolled down my eyes. I just wanted to jump in and crush every bone in this freak's body, but recording the video was essential. Otherwise, no one would believe me. Once I had enough recorded, I rushed to the supervisor. I showed him the video and he couldn't believe his eyes. Miles was called immediately to his office and then reported to the police too. At first, he denied all the claims. But of course he did. But then after seeing the video, his face turned pale. Diane's family was informed and they made sure Miles got what he deserved. I still remember the look in his eyes when the cops arrested him and took him away. It was like he was hell-bent on ruining my life and all he needed was the chance. I never heard from or saw him after that, and honestly, I have so much hatred for that freak that it boils my blood to even think about him.